Although whiskey is one of the most popular spirits, we still don't know exactly who discovered it. The Scots say they did. The Irish say they gave the world whiskey. We'll take a look at what led both nations to do so, as well as a look at the course of whiskey throughout history. It should be noted in advance that the term history is rather strong in this respect. It is difficult to talk about early history. In fact, most of the information we have is only legend. It's possible that St. Patrick's is the most well-known of these. It says that St. Patrick arrived in Ireland, where he first vanquished the devil, founded Christianity, then, to make matters worse, taught the Irish the art of distilling, particularly the distillation of life water. This is the origin of the name whiskey. Living water is referred to as Uisig Beatha in Gaelic, an ancient language spoken by the Celts in Scotland and Ireland. Over time, this term changed to usk and then whiskey. St. Patrick's Day, one of the most significant holidays in all of Ireland, is now observed on March 17th. While legends attribute the pioneering Irish, the first written record of whiskey is found in Scotland sometime in the 12th century. While this is much later than the legend says Patrick lived, the evidence is much more tangible. However, the absence of older written evidence in Ireland does not mean that whiskey could not have been produced there. Where the truth lies, however, is difficult to ascertain today. Nor is it particularly important. Now that we have mentioned the etymology of the name whiskey, we will also mention the well-known problem of whether it is correctly spelled whiskey or whiskey. If you strongly advocate one of the variants, we must warn you that you are wrong. Both are possible, and it depends on which whiskey you are talking about. If the drink in front of you is made in Ireland, it is Irish whiskey. The same is true of American whiskey or bourbon. If, however, you are looking at a product of the Scottish economy, then it is a Scotch whiskey. Likewise with the designation Canadian whiskey. It should be noted that this distinction is a modern one. In the past, bottles of whiskey were labeled regardless of geographical origin. If we're talking about a time when whiskey was in its infancy, I'm talking about whiskey as the drink of the wind-whipped Scottish and Irish Highlanders. During the Middle Ages, however, whiskey made its way into the more affluent population and even into the royal palaces. Whiskey was displacing very expensive French drinks, then mainly wine and brandy. Homebrewed spirits are a significantly cheaper alternative, which is why they are rapidly gaining many fans. The logic behind this is the relatively large increase in production in both Ireland and Scotland. You think that whiskey production in Scotland was no mean feat? We must also refer you to whiskey production in Ireland. During the 19th century, there was little interest in whiskey because of the Irish churchmen's fight against alcoholism. The 20th century saw Ireland's separation from the British Empire and the embargo on Irish whiskey. Prohibition in the US in the 1920s closed other outlets for Irish whiskey. As can be seen, whiskey production in Ireland was not a very secure business either. Whiskey is an acceptable beverage today and is also highly popular. Whiskey is subject to a comparatively high tax burden, like all stronger alcoholic beverages. But despite this, distilleries continue to prosper. Indeed, there is a global interest in whiskey. Although the upper classes tend to favor it more than others, anyone can partake in it. A particular social prestige is now associated with drinking fine whiskey. But understanding how to consume whiskey is crucial.